In a single moment, Jake's perfect life shatters when he catches his wife, Emma, with his best friend, Ryan, at a glittering company gala. A photo exposes their betrayal to the world. Will Jake's calculated revenge restore his honor, or will it destroy everything he's built? Jake Thornton, 34, stood at the helm of Rain City Press, a scrappy but thriving indie publishing house in Seattle. His days buzzed with manuscripts, meetings, and the quiet pride of turning stories into books that found homes on shelves across the country. His best friend and business partner, Ryan Caldwell, brought the charm to their operation: a loud laugh, quick wit, and a knack for sealing deals with authors and distributors. Together, they'd built something special, a company that punched above its weight in a cutthroat industry. But the heart of Jake's world was Emma, his wife of 5 years, a 32-year-old children's author whose whimsical tales captivated young readers and their parents alike. Emma's books, filled with talking animals and brave kids, had become a staple at Rain City Press. Her latest, The Starlit Treehouse, was climbing bestseller lists, and Jake couldn't have been prouder. He'd often slip into her home office with a fresh latte from the cafe down the street, watching her scribble notes or tweak a sentence, her focus intense but warm. "You're going to win a Newbery one day," he'd tease, and she'd roll her eyes, a smile tugging at her lips. Their life in Seattle's Capitol Hill was good: shared dinners, late-night talks about books, and dreams of growing the press into something bigger. They were a team, or so Jake thought. But Emma was restless. Writing for kids came naturally, but the routine of their life, predictable, comfortable, felt like it was closing in. Jake's steadiness, once her anchor, now seemed stifling. He was the guy who remembered her favorite coffee order, who read every draft she wrote with unwavering enthusiasm, who planned quiet weekends hiking in the Cascades. Reliable, loyal, present. Yet, Emma found herself craving something sharper, something that made her pulse race. She didn't know when the shift started, but it was there, like a low hum she couldn't ignore. Ryan was the opposite of Jake in every way that mattered. Where Jake was measured, Ryan was reckless. Where Jake listened, Ryan commanded attention. At Rain City's weekly editorial meetings, Ryan's energy filled the room. Stories of his weekend escapades, bold pitches for new projects, a grin that dared you to look away. Emma noticed it more than she wanted to admit. It started innocently, a laugh at one of his jokes, a shared glance when he praised her latest chapter. "This is your best yet," he'd say, leaning closer than necessary, his voice carrying a weight Jake's compliments didn't. She'd brush it off, but the spark lingered. One rainy afternoon, Emma and Ryan stayed late at the office, sorting through a stack of manuscript submissions. Jake had left early for a distributor meeting across town. The office was quiet, just the patter of rain against the windows and the hum of the heater. Ryan tossed a manuscript aside and leaned back in his chair. "You ever think about writing something different? Like not for kids. Something raw, intense." Emma paused, her pen hovering over a page. "Maybe," she said, meeting his gaze. "But Jake loves the kid stuff. It's our thing." Ryan smirked. "Jake loves everything you do. Guy's practically your fan club president." She laughed, but the comment stuck. Was that all Jake saw in her? A writer he admired, not a woman who could surprise him? The conversation shifted to a new project, a graphic novel series Rain City was considering. Ryan suggested they grab coffee at a nearby shop to brainstorm. Emma hesitated, then agreed. At the cafe, over steaming mugs, their talk veered from work to personal. Ryan shared a story about a wild trip to Portland, his eyes lighting up as he described sneaking into a closed bookstore for a midnight reading. Emma found herself leaning in, caught up in his energy. "Your trouble," she said, half joking. "Only the good kind," he shot back, his voice low. Their knees brushed under the table. She didn't pull away. Back home that evening, Emma tried to shake the feeling. Jake was cooking dinner, salmon and roasted veggies, her favorite. He asked about her day, genuinely curious, and she mumbled something about manuscripts. Guilt tugged at her, but so did something else, excitement, dangerous and new. She poured herself a glass of wine and changed the subject, asking about his meeting. Jake lit up, diving into details about a new bookstore chain interested in their titles. His passion was real, but to Emma, it felt like the same script they'd been reading for years. Over the next few weeks, Ryan found reasons to be around Emma more. A text about a book cover design turned into a thread of movie recommendations. A quick chat at the office stretched into a walk to the coffee shop. Each interaction left Emma a little more curious, a little more reckless. She started noticing things, how Ryan's confidence seemed to pull people in, how he made her feel seen in a way Jake didn't anymore. Jake's love was steady, but Ryan's attention was electric. She told herself it was harmless, just a crush, a fleeting thrill. She'd never act on it, but deep down, she knew she was lying. One night, after a long day, Emma showed Jake a new chapter of her book. He read it on the couch, his face lighting up. "This is incredible, Em. The way you weave the emotions, it's magic." She smiled, but her mind was elsewhere. Ryan had texted her earlier, a casual, "Loved your notes on the graphic novel. Let's talk more tomorrow." The message was simple, but it burned in her pocket. She kissed Jake goodnight, her lips lingering a moment too long, as if to convince herself she still belonged to him. But as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Ryan's words echoed louder than Jake's praise. Emma didn't see the cliff she was inching toward. She didn't realize how fast curiosity could turn into betrayal. And Jake, oblivious, kept believing the life they'd built together, unaware that the ground beneath him was already starting to crack. Emma's phone buzzed on the counter, a new message from Ryan lighting up the screen. "Got an idea for the graphic novel. Meet me at Pike Place tomorrow, 3 p.m. Her pulse quickened. She glanced at Jake, who was across the room, typing furiously on his laptop, finalizing a deal with a local bookstore chain. "Sounds good," she typed back, her fingers hesitating before hitting send. It was just work, she told herself, but the lie felt thinner every day. The next afternoon, Emma met Ryan at a bustling cafe overlooking Pike Place Market. The air smelled of fresh fish and roasted coffee, the crowd a blur of tourists and vendors. Ryan was already there, leaning casually against a table, scrolling through his phone. "You're late," he teased, though she was right on time. Emma laughed, easing into the chair across from him. They dove into the graphic novel project, story arcs, character designs, but the conversation kept slipping. Ryan asked about her writing process, her dreams beyond children's books. "You've got more in you than talking squirrels," he said, his tone half playful, half serious. She deflected, but his words hit a nerve. Jake never pushed her to step outside her niche. Ryan seemed to see something bigger. As they left the cafe, Ryan suggested a walk along the waterfront. Emma knew she should head home. Jake was expecting her for dinner, but she agreed. The conversation flowed effortlessly. Music, travel, the thrill of taking risks. Ryan's stories were wild, unfiltered, pulling her in like a current. When their hands brushed while dodging a street performer, neither pulled away. The touch lingered, a silent agreement that something had shifted. Emma's stomach twisted with guilt, but the thrill drowned it out. Back home, Jake noticed her distraction. "Everything okay?" he asked, setting the table for their usual Tuesday night pasta. Emma nodded, forcing a smile. "Just a busy day." She didn't mention Ryan or the waterfront. Jake didn't press, trusting her as always. But as they ate, her mind replayed Ryan's laugh, the way his eyes held hers a beat too long. She pushed the thoughts away, focusing on Jake's story about a new author he'd signed. His excitement was infectious, but it didn't reach her the way it used to. The next week, Ryan's texts came more often. A meme about publishing, a quick thoughts on this cover art, that turned into an hour-long chat about nothing. Emma knew she was crossing a line, but it felt like stepping into a new story, one she was writing in secret. At Rain City Press, their interactions grew bolder. During a team meeting, Ryan slid a note across the table. Lunch later, Jake was in the room, reviewing contracts, oblivious. Emma scribbled "sure" and passed it back, her heart racing. The secrecy was intoxicating. Their lunches became a routine. At a quiet diner near the office, Ryan leaned close, his voice low as he shared gossip about a rival publisher. Emma laughed louder than she meant to, catching herself when she noticed a colleague glance their way. "We're going to get in trouble," she whispered, half joking. Ryan grinned. "Only if we're boring." His confidence made her feel alive, untethered from the safe, predictable life she shared with Jake. One evening, after a late editorial session, Ryan offered to walk Emma to her car. The Seattle sky was a deep gray, rain threatening but holding off. In the dim parking lot, he stopped, turning to face her. "You ever wonder what it'd be like to just let go?" he asked. Before she could answer, he kissed her. It was quick, intense, a spark that burned through her defenses. Emma froze, then kissed him back, her hands gripping his jacket. The world blurred, guilt, desire, fear colliding. She pulled away, breathless. "We can't," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Ryan just nodded, his expression unreadable. "See you tomorrow," he said, walking off. Emma drove home in a daze, the taste of Ryan's kiss lingering. Jake was waiting, a glass of wine in hand, ready to hear about her day. "How'd the meeting go?" he asked, his smile warm. She mumbled something vague, avoiding his eyes. That night, she lay awake beside him, his steady breathing a stark contrast to the chaos in her head. She wanted to confess, to stop the spiral, but the pull of Ryan was stronger. She told herself it was a one-time mistake. It wouldn't happen again. But the next day, when Ryan texted, "Meet me after work," she didn't hesitate. Their affair took root, hidden in stolen moments. A quick coffee turned into a long drive to a secluded park. A late-night work call became a whispered conversation in a hotel bar. Emma justified it. Jake was busy, the press was thriving, he wouldn't notice. But every lie she told him, every smile she faked, carved a deeper wound. She still loved Jake, his kindness, his belief in her. But Ryan was a fire, and she couldn't stop reaching for the flame. Jake, meanwhile, sensed a shift. Emma was distant, her laughter forced, her eyes always on her phone. He asked if she was stressed, offered to take her away for a weekend. "Just us, no work," he said, hopeful. Emma agreed, but her mind was elsewhere. The Seattle Book Expo was looming, a major event for Rain City Press. Jake was focused on speeches and deals, unaware that Emma and Ryan were planning their own moment in the chaos. Emma told herself she could keep both worlds, Jake's love, Ryan's thrill, without breaking either. But the cracks were spreading, and the fall was coming. The Seattle Book Expo buzzed with energy, its downtown venue packed with authors, publishers, and book enthusiasts. Rain City Press had a prime booth, stacked with Emma's best-selling The Starlit Treehouse and new titles Jake had championed. Jake, 34, moved through the crowd with a steady smile, shaking hands with distributors and chatting up bookstore owners. The expo was his moment to shine, to prove his indie press could compete with the big players. Emma, 32, was there as the star author, signing books and charming fans with stories of her creative process. Ryan, ever the showman, worked the room, his laugh cutting through the noise as he pitched projects to investors. But beneath the surface, tension simmered. Emma and Ryan's affair had escalated over weeks, their stolen moments now a full-blown secret. They'd meet at out-of-the-way bars or linger after office hours, each encounter bolder than the last. Emma felt alive in Ryan's orbit, his recklessness a stark contrast to Jake's dependable calm. Yet guilt gnawed at her. She'd catch herself watching Jake, his quiet pride in her work, and wonder how she'd let things spiral so far. Still, she didn't stop. Ryan's pull was too strong, his confidence a drug she couldn't quit. Jake wasn't blind. He'd noticed Emma's late nights, her distracted glances, the way she'd jump when her phone buzzed. He'd asked once, gently, if something was wrong. "Just work stress," she'd said, her smile too quick. He let it go, trusting her, but doubts crept in. Ryan's behavior didn't help. His lingering looks at Emma during meetings, his casual inside jokes that Jake didn't share. Jake pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the expo. Tonight was too important for distractions. The evening's main event was a gala in the venue's grand hall, a chance to celebrate Rain City's successes. Jake was set to give a keynote, his first big speech since launching the press. Emma stood by his side as guests arrived, her arm looped through his, playing the perfect wife. Ryan mingled nearby, his charm on full display as he toasted with colleagues. The night felt electric, but for all the wrong reasons. Emma and Ryan kept stealing glances, their secret a live wire between them. Halfway through the gala, Jake's phone vibrated. An anonymous text. "Check the lounge on the 3rd floor." His stomach dropped. He scanned the room. Emma was gone, and so was Ryan. He excused himself from a conversation with a distributor, his face calm, but his pulse racing. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, the noise of the gala fading behind him. The lounge door was slightly ajar. Through the gap, he saw them, Emma and Ryan, too close, her hand on his arm, their laughter intimate. It wasn't just a moment. It was evidence. Jake's chest tightened, but he didn't flinch. He pulled out his phone, snapped a photo, and turned away. The image captured everything. Emma's smile, Ryan's smirk, the betrayal laid bare. Back in the hall, Jake rejoined the crowd, his expression unreadable. Emma returned minutes later, smoothing her hair, her face flushed. Ryan followed, casual as ever, blending into a group of investors. Jake watched them, his mind racing, but his demeanor steady. He didn't confront them. Not yet. The gala continued, speeches and applause filling the air. Emma found him, slipping her hand into his. "You okay?" she asked, her voice light but her eyes searching. "Never better," Jake said, his tone even. She didn't push. When it was time for his keynote, Jake took the stage, the crowd settling into their seats. He spoke confidently about Rain City's growth, thanking authors, staff, and supporters. Emma sat in the front row, clapping with the rest, unaware of the storm brewing. Ryan stood near the back, a drink in hand, oblivious. Jake paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "Before I wrap up," he said, "I have one last thing to share. Something personal." He nodded to the tech crew, and the screen behind him lit up. The photo appeared, sharp and undeniable. Emma and Ryan in the lounge, caught in their private moment. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emma froze, her face draining of color. Ryan's drink slipped from his hand, splashing the floor. Jake's voice cut through the murmurs. "This is my wife," he said, his tone steady but cold. "And this is my business partner. As of tonight, my marriage is over, and so is our partnership." He stepped off the stage, the room erupting into whispers. Some guests stared at Emma, others at Ryan, shock and judgment mingling in their eyes. Emma stood, her legs shaky, and tried to follow Jake, but he was already moving through the crowd, shaking hands as if nothing had happened. Ryan slipped toward the exit, his usual swagger gone. Emma called after Jake, her voice lost in the noise. He didn't turn back. The photo lingered on the screen, a silent accusation, as the gala unraveled into chaos. Colleagues whispered, phones buzzed with texts, and the story of Rain City's implosion began to spread. Jake reached the venue's lobby, his heart pounding, but his face a mask of calm. He'd planned for this moment, though he hadn't wanted to believe it would come. The photo was his proof, his weapon, and he'd wielded it with precision. Emma and Ryan had made their choices. Now they'd face the consequences. As he stepped into the cool Seattle night, Jake knew the real work was just beginning. Not just saving his company, but reclaiming his life. The Seattle Book Expo Gala ended in a storm of whispers and sidelong glances. Jake's public unveiling of Emma and Ryan's betrayal left the room fractured. The image of their intimate moment seared into the minds of everyone present. Emma, 32, stood frozen as the screen went dark, the weight of 100 stares pinning her in place. Her legs trembled as she pushed through the crowd, desperate to find Jake. He was already gone, slipping out of the venue without a word. Ryan, 34, made a quieter exit, his usual charisma replaced by a tight jaw and hurried steps. The night marked the end of their secrets and the beginning of their unraveling. Emma stumbled into the cool Seattle night, her phone buzzing with notifications she couldn't bear to read. Colleagues, friends, even fans were already posting about the scandal on social media, the photos spreading like wildfire across X and industry group chats. She tried calling Jake, her hands shaking as she dialed. No answer. She left a voicemail, her voice cracking. "Jake, please, let me explain. I'm so sorry." The words felt hollow even as she spoke them. She hailed a rideshare, directing the driver to a friend's condo in Fremont. When she arrived, her friend Mia opened the door, concern etched on her face. Emma collapsed onto the couch, sobbing, unable to form a coherent explanation. Mia didn't ask questions, just handed her a blanket and let her cry. Ryan, meanwhile, sped to his Belltown apartment, his mind racing. The gala's fallout was worse than he'd imagined. He'd always play the charmer, skating through life on confidence and quick apologies, but this was different. The photo wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was professional suicide. He tried texting Emma, then calling, but her phone went straight to voicemail. He paced, replaying Jake's cold words on the stage. "My marriage is over, and so is our partnership." For the first time, Ryan felt the ground shift beneath him. He'd lost his best friend, his business, and the reputation he'd built. He sank into a chair, staring at his silent phone, waiting for a response that wouldn't come. Jake checked into a downtown hotel, his movements deliberate despite the ache in his chest. He didn't cry or rage, he focused. Sitting at the hotel desk, he drafted an email to Rain City Press's IT team, ordering the immediate suspension of Emma and Ryan's company access. Email accounts, project files, entry badges. By morning, they'd be locked out. He copied the board of directors, attaching the damning photo and a brief explanation of Ryan's breach of trust. Every step was calculated, a firewall to protect the company he'd poured his life into. Sleep didn't come that night. Instead, he reviewed contracts, emailed his lawyer, and began mapping out the next steps. Jake wasn't just fighting for his business. He was fighting to reclaim himself. By morning, the publishing world was ablaze with gossip. Ex-posts tagged Rain City Press surged, some praising Jake's decisiveness, others tearing into Emma and Ryan. Bookstores emailed Jake, offering support and requesting more stock of Rain City's titles. The scandal, while painful, was turning Jake into an industry underdog, a man wronged but unbroken. Emma, still at Mia's, woke to a flood of canceled appearances, book signings, school visits, even a podcast interview. Her agent called, voice strained, warning that publishers were pulling back, hesitant to touch her next book. "You need to lay low," the agent said. Emma nodded, numb, unable to argue. She tried texting Jake again, begging to talk, but his silence was louder than any rejection. Ryan faced his own reckoning. Two major authors he'd been courting for Rain City defected to rival presses, citing unprofessional conduct. His inbox filled with curt emails from investors withdrawing support. He tried to spin the narrative, posting a vague apology on X about personal mistakes and moving forward, but the comments were brutal. "Traitor. You burned your own bridge." He deleted the post, retreating from the platform. A call to Emma went unanswered. She was shutting him out, too. For all his bravado, Ryan was alone, the cost of his recklessness sinking in. Emma finally left Mia's after 3 days, driven by a need to face the wreckage. She returned to the Capitol Hill apartment she shared with Jake, expecting to find him there, ready to talk. The place was eerily quiet. Jake's laptop, some clothes, and a few files were gone. He'd been there, but not to stay. She sank onto the couch, clutching a mug of coffee that went cold in her hands. She tried calling him again, leaving another voicemail. "I know I messed up, Jake. Please, just let me see you." The silence that followed was deafening. She stayed in the apartment, hoping he'd return, but days passed with no sign of him. At the hotel, Jake met with his lawyer, laying out his plan. He wanted a divorce, fast and clean. A prenup protected most of his assets, including Rain City Press, which he'd founded before marrying Emma. The apartment would be split, but that was it. He also prepared a lawsuit against Ryan for breach of fiduciary duty, arguing that Ryan's actions, using company time and resources to pursue an affair, had damaged the press's reputation and operations. The photo was his evidence, backed by months of suspicious email threads and meeting logs. Jake's lawyer was confident. The case was airtight. The industry fallout was swift. Emma's books, once beloved, were quietly pulled from some bookstore displays. Ryan's name became toxic. No press would touch him. Rain City Press, under Jake's steady hand, gained traction. Sympathetic articles in local papers hailed Jake as a resilient leader, and sales spiked as readers rallied behind him. Emma and Ryan's worlds crumbled, each in isolation, while Jake stood firm, his focus on rebuilding sharper than ever. The consequences were just beginning, but the lines were drawn, and there was no going back. Weeks after the Seattle Book Expo scandal, the dust began to settle, but the consequences for Emma and Ryan were unrelenting. Jake, 34, had taken decisive steps to protect Rain City Press and his own future, his focus unwavering despite the personal toll. Emma, 32, and Ryan, 34, faced the wreckage of their choices, isolated from the industry and each other. The fallout had been swift, but the final chapter was about justice, lawful, measured, and definitive, and Jake's quiet triumph in rebuilding his life. Emma lingered in the Capitol Hill apartment, hoping Jake would return, but his absence was a statement louder than words. She'd left countless voicemails, each more desperate. "I know I hurt you, Jake. Just talk to me, please." Her phone stayed silent. The apartment, once a hub of shared dreams, felt like a museum of their past. Her publisher dropped her next book deal, citing brand concerns. Invitations to literary events vanished. Her social media accounts bled followers. Ex-posts labeled her a traitor, a homewrecker, her once adoring fanbase now a chorus of disappointment. She moved out, unable to afford the apartment alone, and crashed with her friend Mia in Fremont while searching for a new path. Freelance writing gigs became her lifeline, but the spark of her children's stories was gone. She started drafting a memoir, a raw account of her mistakes, but no publisher would touch it. Emma was a pariah, her career a shadow of what it had been. Ryan's fall was even steeper. His charm, once his greatest asset, couldn't salvage his reputation. Rain City Press's board, acting on Jake's directive, severed all ties with him. His access to company systems was revoked, his office cleared out overnight. Rival publishers blacklisted him. Authors he'd nurtured signed elsewhere. On X, industry insiders dissected his betrayal, calling him the guy who tanked his own career for a fling. Ryan tried to pivot, pitching freelance consulting gigs, but doors slammed shut. He moved to a cheaper apartment outside Seattle, his savings dwindling. Late at night, he'd scroll through old messages with Emma, tempted to reach out, but her number was blocked. He was alone, his reckless confidence reduced to regret. Jake, meanwhile, rebuilt with surgical precision. From his hotel room, he worked with his lawyer to finalize the divorce. The prenup ensured Emma received only half the apartment's value. Nothing from Rain City Press, which Jake had founded before their marriage. The process was quick, clinical, and final. Emma signed the papers without protest, her fight drained. Jake sold the apartment, using a share to fund new projects for the press. He also filed a lawsuit against Ryan for breach of fiduciary duty, alleging Ryan misused company time and resources to pursue the affair, damaging the press's reputation. The photo from the gala, combined with email logs showing Ryan's inappropriate communications, made the case ironclad. A judge ruled in Jake's favor, ordering Ryan to pay a six-figure settlement for moral and commercial damages. The payment crippled Ryan financially, forcing him to liquidate assets to cover it. Rain City Press, against all odds, thrived. The scandal, while painful, had turned Jake into an industry folk hero, a man betrayed but unbroken. Bookstores stocked more of his titles. Readers bought them in droves, drawn by the story of his resilience. Jake leaned into the momentum, signing new authors and launching a debut novelist whose gritty thriller became a surprise hit. He hired a new business manager to replace Ryan, a sharp woman from Portland with no tolerance for drama. The press's revenue climbed, surpassing its best years. Jake relocated to a modest condo near Lake Union, a fresh start where he could focus on work and healing. Emma tried to rebuild, moving to a small town in Oregon. She took a job teaching creative writing at a community center, a far cry from her days as a celebrated author. She avoided X, the platform where her downfall was still dissected. At night, she journaled, grappling with the guilt of hurting Jake and the realization that her thrill-seeking had cost her everything. She wrote him a letter, not expecting a reply. "I broke the best thing I had. I'll carry that forever." She mailed it to his lawyer, unsure if it would reach him. It didn't. Jake had instructed his team to forward nothing from her. Ryan, too, faded from Seattle's literary scene. He took a low-level marketing job in Tacoma, far from the publishing world. His nights were spent in dive bars, nursing beers and avoiding anyone who knew his past. He stopped trying to contact Emma, accepting that their affair had burned too many bridges. The man who once commanded rooms now kept his head down, a cautionary tale whispered about at industry conferences. Jake found peace in his new routine. He'd walk along Lake Union at dawn, the quiet helping him process the betrayal. He didn't hate Emma or Ryan. He pitted them. They chased fleeting thrills and lost everything, while he'd chosen dignity. At a book launch 6 months later, Jake stood before a crowd, introducing a new author. His speech was brief, confident, no trace of the man who'd stood broken at the gala. "We build, we fall, we rise," he said, the words resonating with everyone in the room. Applause followed, louder than he expected. The scandal faded from headlines, but its lessons lingered. Jake's victory wasn't just legal or financial, It was personal. He'd cut away the parts of his life that no longer served him and emerged stronger. Emma and Ryan, meanwhile, carried the weight of their choices, their names synonymous with betrayal. Justice had been served, not through vengeance, but through consequences lawful and final. Jake looked to the future, his press thriving, his heart steady, ready for whatever came next.